What's up, you guys, and welcome to another episode of the House of Jazz podcast. Now listen, this is the House of Jazz, and if you know in your house, you got house rules, so we got house rules. Rules number one, choose you and watch everything else choose you too, because that's what we'll be talking about in a lot of these episodes. And rule number two is to revert back to rule number one. Now, if we had a rule number three, I'm a Southern girl. I was born and raised in the South. And so I was always told, whatever go on in your house, stay in your house. In your house. We ain't going by that rule. So rule number three is that whatever goes on in the House of Jazz, tell your people. I need you to share this, okay? Share it with all your people. And if there's something that you find that connects with you, that resonates in any way, make sure you let us know in the comments, okay? Now, today we have a very special episode, and we are going to be chatting with one of my really good friends, actually one of my photographers turned friend, and I ain't even gonna talk too much about it. I'm gonna let her introduce herself. Hi guest, how are you?
Hello. So I am Jasmine Smith from Jasmine Smith Photography. I'm a branding and a wedding photographer based here in Atlanta, Georgia, but I travel wherever Delta goes. And yes, I have met Jasmine because the first time was your sister's wedding.
Absolutely.
And then from your sister's, sister's engagement.
Yeah.
It was the engagement. She was pregnant at the time.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, this was the hypest pregnant woman that I know.
Listen, baby, you know.
The hypest pregnant woman I know, but she was the hype woman on the side. So I loved it. And immediately I was just like, oh yeah, that's my type of person.
Yeah.
That's my type of person.
Yeah.
And that moved into the maternity shoot. Mm-hmm. And then we did the wedding. Mm-hmm. And then best friends engagement and wedding. So it's just, an ever-going process, because once you shoot with me, you stuck with me. We family at this point. Because see, look what's happening.
And I am thoroughly always pleased with you. From the first time, I ain't gonna even lie, no cap. When we came in, and I talk about you all the time, even when I teach social media, because I would teach social media to a lot of photographers and videographers. And so even when I talk about you, and even when my best friend came, I was like, hey, I'm trying to choose between, and I was like, listen, one thing about Jasmine is she's gonna give you direction. Mm-hmm. She knows exactly what she's doing. And she had a little challenge with posing and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I said, outside of the service itself, and the customer service, because people care about customer service. Yes, they do. And sometimes they be talking about our people don't.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes they be right.
And sometimes they be right. But when I tell you, everything just flowed. Mm-hmm. And when I met you that first time, and the way you were directing, and my sister just looked so good. And you enhanced that 10 times. So I was like, then I got to go ahead, lock her in for this maternity shoot. And our maternity shoot was dope.
Even after we had our little blunder.
We had a blunder. Let me tell you what happened. Y'all, listen, I'm trying to forget that. Because I'm pregnant, 7-8 months?
Yeah.
I'm pregnant. Mm-hmm. And
in the summertime.
Mm-hmm. So I had bought all of my pieces for the shoot. I did this goddess look. Mm-hmm. I wonder if I can get that picture plugged in. Hopefully. But I did this goddess look, right? And we are getting ready to shoot. And I think we were supposed to shoot later on in the evening, because as a great photographer would tell you, why did we have to shoot in the evening?
Because we need to worry about that light. They need to be too harsh on you.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You can have all them ugly shadows at the sun. Because this is the thing that people don't think about when it comes to the sun. That's our light source, okay? So if I'm shooting outside, especially with us women, if the sun is right above me, I got to worry about all them shadows. Mm-hmm. So you start getting bags, you'll get all this, and it's just not flattering.
I ain't know none of that, because in my mind, if the sun out, we got good light.
Right.
This is why I don't do this. This ain't my work, okay? This ain't my ministry, okay? But anyway, so we had to shoot later on in the evening, and I had bought all of my stuff. I'm talking about maybe 3 outfits, little crown things, just all these things. Child, go get my stuff. We getting ready to head out, me and my sister, go get my stuff, and nothing's nowhere to be found. My oldest son had threw away That man had threw away all my stuff.
But did he do it on purpose? It was an accident.
I think he did. I'm not gonna lie. Let me tell you what I think he did. Cause he got mad at me about something. And don't nobody mess with my Amazon stuff. Nobody. And from where everything was placed and how everything was placed, and it was heavy because of the chains and stuff, like that chain that I wore over the bra, that thing was heavy. I had some foot little thingies, the crown, like all of that stuff was in there. It was heavy. Man, I cried. I cried because for one, he threw away all my stuff and I couldn't get it back Then for two, I hate being late and I hate inconveniencing people. And I felt like, oh my God, this is my shoot. And then I'm pregnant. Let's just be clear.
It's just a whole nother level of emotion.
Whole nother level of emotion. And all I could do was cry, but you were so graceful. You were so patient. You were so understanding. It was like, it's okay, but it's not okay. My sister was, you know, she panicking. Let's fix it. I'm like, oh my God, we can't fix it. We're gonna go to the mall, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And you were just like, no,
it's okay.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. Plus you're emotional and your pictures aren't gonna come out right.
Yep.
I didn't know that either because I was gonna come and perform. But she was like, no. So I appreciate that about you. But yeah, that debacle was crazy, y'all. I don't know if y'all ever had that happen. But it's like I couldn't do nothing but cry. I think I cried for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Because all my stuff was gone. But I reordered everything. I didn't reorder it.
Right.
Somebody else had to reorder. But we got it. And then we had an amazing shoot. I'm talking about, we was all in the waters.
Yes.
Let's see if I can plug one of these pictures because I want y'all to see what she did.
They gotta get plugged.
And even the behind the scenes was dope.
Yes, the behind the scenes. And I was so hyped off these photos. She got them photos the next day.
Listen, plug yourself, sis. The next day. No cap. And I'm talking about men, they're like, and like when I released them, they just like blew up. They went everywhere. And that was when that whole Beyonce had just came out. So everything was just,
because it just flowed.
It just flowed. But I knew the picture was gonna be dope because she showed me the raw photos. So here's the other thing. Now I ain't gonna, now sisters, now you know how we like to see.
We want to see.
We want to see the picture. She be letting you see the picture, just a little bit of it.
Just a little bit.
And she does a lot of capturing the behind the scenes, which is really good too, because you really want people to like see you, and I do, in action. So yeah, that's how we met, and we are here, and we essentially do the same thing as far as in the marketplace, and by the marketplace, you know, business wise.
Right.
But we friends. We don't compete.
Yes. And we got the same name.
And we got the same name. Like when the Jases get together, baby.
But it's distinguishable because you spell your name differently than mine.
I do. My mama said I was special and not in a bad way, I guess.
Get that Y.
I got that Y in it. Yeah. That's it. So Jazz, tell me. So the woman behind Jasmine Smith Photography. Tell me about the woman behind. Tell me a little bit about you that somebody might not know.
I'm a perfectionist. Some people know me. I am a perfectionist. Things that people shock, like what? Are I don't like coffee. I don't like chocolate. But I like Kit Kats.
What? Wait a minute. You don't like coffee. You don't like chocolates, but you like Kit Kats.
And then my husband be like, but chocolate is the Kit Kat. I was just like, but it's different. It must be a different type of chocolate because I like that one.
Sis.
And Crunch Bars, but that's it.
No Snickers.
I think it's the caramel.
You don't like caramel? Jazz.
Just my man.
Oh. I ain't mad at that. Just my man, honey.
Yep, that's the only caramel.
And you and your husband work together? That's dope.
Yep. But really only for wedding parts because he still has his 9 to 5. I don't. I'm out. And we go get to there. I'm out.
I'm ready.
I work for myself. But what he does, he came in, because it's actually during COVID. He was actually laid off during COVID, and he was just like, okay, like, what can I do? And I was just like, okay, let's learn a new skill. And That's how.
Come on over here, sir.
That's how it was born. And then he started doing like weddings with me, and I was teaching him, and he was teaching me because it was like different things with video compared to photo. And it's just kind of blossomed from there. And then now it's almost like a thing. So when we do go to weddings, people be like, wait, y'all husband and wife? And then it's always the joke, like, y'all don't be arguing, so turn to a fight or nothing. And I'd be like, no.
Yeah, y'all work really well together.
Yeah, we just know, like, hey, you get out my shot. And that's about it. That's the only thing we be going.
Get out my shot.
Like, get out my shot. You on my shot. And
Yeah.
That's about it.
I was about to say something because we'll talk about that later. Anyways, so you said you're out. So what did you do prior to getting out and on your own?
Yes. So me, prior to being, full-time entrepreneur, all the things, I was a middle school science teacher for 10 years.
What grade?
11 if you include student teaching, 7th grade. So I taught puberty to puberty, essentially. Very interesting. There was quite the evolution of students from me starting and me finishing, which is also a reason why I exited.
That makes sense. So that's another thing besides us having our names in common. I'm also a former classroom educator who got out. And I should have stayed out when I did stay out, but I didn't. I was too scared. I had to go back in, and then I came out again. And I'm just convinced I'm not gonna go back. Despite how much I love education, despite how much I love students, I just can't do in the system. What was it like? What's the evolution like that made you leave? Like, what was that thing?
I'm a very blunt person. My best friend, she did something for my birthday. She's like, this is the most direct person I know. She always go tell you it straight, no matter if you want to hear it. I was the same way with my students.
Yeah.
I wasn't the type to like baby them. I treated them like young adults. When they would mess up, they would just mess up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let them redo, retest, all that kind of stuff. That was not a thing.
You my type of teacher, honey.
That was not in my classroom. And I had parents like blatantly be like, well, so-and-so. I'm just like, that's fine, but that's not happening. I was just like, because in the real world, when you mess up, you mess up. You don't get a redo. If I'm going down 75 and I'm speeding and I get a super speeder ticket because I'm going 90 something and whatever 65, guess what? I can't be like, can you just pause, let me go back and let me come back slower. No, it don't work like that. You just gonna have to take that L and take accountability for whatever your actions are. So the evolution is, in the beginning, the adults were holding the children accountable for their actions. After COVID, it was gone.
Baby, listen.
It was gone. The kids run the schools. The parents run the schools.
Baby, listen.
And it's like the adults scared of people. And I'm not the one. I'm not scared.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what I said.
Yeah.
And you either go take it or you go leave it. And while I was very respected in the classroom, the students respected me, I never had an issue because I started teaching at 22.
Okay.
So fresh out 22. And I had teachers, I've had teachers that looked at me some type of way.
Oh, of course.
Because I had a leadership too. Because my second year teaching, I was writing parts of the charter for my school.
And they don't like that.
They don't like that.
They don't like that right now.
Especially where I was. Because I was in an area that,
What area, girl?
Dunwoody. So they ain't like that. We go keep it real PC, but they ain't like that.
Yeah, they ain't like that.
It just was a little hot mess, and I'm not intimidated easily. I get that from my daddy, and it just was what it was.
It's so familiar that you say that because I think I started teaching at 23. I turned 23 February that year, and then I started teaching in September. But here's the thing, I went back to my hometown.
Oh, you taught in Camilla?
Yeah.
Oh.
My first 3 years.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, first 3 years I taught in Camilla. I taught high school. So usually when I introduce myself and me as an educator, and this is some things that I forget that I know that like attribute to who I am as a coach and an educator today outside of like the four walls.
Right.
But I've been doing this for a while. So I taught high school. I went in as special education. But my special education students just had learning disabilities and like we talk about reading comprehension, you know, those things, or behavior disabilities. Okay. So, but in the high school that I was in, on my caseload, they had all of these different students. So I wouldn't have just 9th grade or just 10th or 11th grade. I would have the entire
whole
school. And it wasn't just math or ELA. It was like, well, even if it was math or reading, especially if it was comprehension, they were going to need push-in for probably all of their subject areas because of the comprehension part. So usually when I introduce myself and I tell people, you know, I've been in education for 12 years, I've taught every grade level, every content area, they were like, how you did that in 12 years?
Right.
Because I was a special educator. Because I had to. My students needed me in that way. So I had to be well versed in all content areas and be able to like take that information, break it down into manageable parts, whatever my students may need, which got me very interested in personalized learning. I was like, this is just what I've been doing for my students anyways. But the hardest thing for me going into education was the fact that I started in my hometown and everybody knew Jazz and they didn't know Miss Burns. And then I was 23 and I was in high school and I didn't look 23. So now you gotta deal with a whole nother level of.
That's why I stayed in middle school.
You got to deal with a whole little boy, don't try me. I'm grown.
Yeah, I had several of those moments.
And then having to actually take students in the office to be like, this is what's happening, we're not going to do it. And then having to solidify the respect. So not only from the students, especially like male students, but then it's female students because you got that female rah. Small town, so now you gotta, but you gotta get them to trust you in a certain way. So I've learned how to diversify how I communicate with people and interact with people a long time ago. But one thing I hated at that time was like the interaction you would have from the older people, especially my sisters. Cause you come in, young black tenderoni, they don't like, and you single, they don't like it.
I don't like it.
And then I taught with teachers who taught me.
Oh, so they still see you as a student.
Yeah, most of them did, especially others. But, you know.
Right.
So I get that.
Yeah.
And that was in a small town, so I get that. It was challenging, but it was fun. Like those were probably my favorite 3 years because I also coached basketball, track and field, cross country, all that stuff.
Well, I did coaching too, but I just did cheer and dance.
Why did you say just did?
No, because you did multiple sports.
But you just said just did.
You're right. I need to fix that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that for me. But yeah, so that was pretty dope. And going back into the classroom from the time I started, going back in and being there before COVID, during COVID, and then after COVID, totally
different.
Totally different. And so that's why I said I can't never do it.
Because I feel like now they're setting these kids up for failure. Like,
absolutely.
Be blatantly honest. They're setting them up for failure.
Absolutely.
These kids are so lazy, they won't even Google stuff. I will be like, they'll ask me a question. Oh, Miss Smith, what's this? Do your research, Google it. That's hard.
Child.
What you mean that's hard? All you gotta do is type something in and call it a day.
Baby, listen.
And then the fact that as much as they be on their phone, they don't understand how to do like what I would consider common sense things on a computer, like getting into Word, making presentations, like.
Yeah. And it's almost like the school system is, and I'm not saying the teachers, but the system.
It's the system.
Is making, or like the tests and stuff are more rigorous, but they're not setting the kids up to be able to conquer the rigor.
Not at all.
Or think critically.
And then they say it's us.
Yeah. And then they tell you, think outside of the box, teach outside of the box, but they keep you in the box. And so it makes it challenging all the way around, and it's a cycle. So I can understand why like teachers are like burned out. Because I mean, some people in there still fighting a good fight. And there are some amazing educators out there. But baby, it's hard. It is hard.
But this last year, that was like the mass exodus in my school district. My school district was the top school district with the most vacancies in the state.
Which district? Oh, okay. Just wondering.
Yeah. Highest, they had like 400, over 400 vacancies going into the school year.
Listen.
Because so many left.
If you're looking for a job.
They still hiring.
They still hiring. You know, you can get educators.
Paras. Subs.
And I still got my teacher certificate.
Me too. I'm not going to let it lapse because you never know.
Never know. Because if they tell me, give me 150, 175K.
Because you see, it keep creeping up.
But baby, it got to be 100
It got to be high.
And I only can do 6 hours. If that. 4 hours, one class.
Yeah. Because my issue, as far as like leaving, it wasn't even like the burnout from the school. Because I had such a systematic way of my classroom where I was the teacher, my room, and everybody said this, there's like literally, this room looks the same from the time you have gotten this building to the time you left. It's just always spotless. So it stayed clean. I would grade and give stuff right back because I just don't like holding on to stuff. But the thing was the balance. Because I had that system, but I didn't have as tight of a system with my business that I did with my classroom. So my classroom was interfering with my business.
See, that's when they say it's time to leave, though.
Exactly.
That's why you left, huh?
Because then over COVID, I was already making my salary halfway doing my business. So I'm just like, if I'm like half-assing this and I'm making my salary, why am I here?
So what do you think the disconnect was? And did that interfere like once you went full time?
What do you mean?
So what was the disconnect between the system that you had in the classroom and the system in your business, and not having that system for your business once you went full time? Did you see where the system that you had in the classroom needed to be in your business? Like did you see, did it make business a little bit harder because now I'm running this business,
right,
and I know I don't have like this tight system here. Like, did it make the transition challenging in any way?
Like, no. The transition was actually pretty good, just out of like management stuff, as far as like me managing myself. But the disconnect between the classroom and business and having the system here, and it was interfering with my personal life.
Oh, explain.
Because so when I started my business, because I started my business from my wedding. Like that's really how I became a photographer, was from my wedding experience. I had hired a friend, amazing photographer, still is an amazing photographer, but he's not a wedding photographer.
And that makes sense.
So much of a difference. I have beautiful photos, but there are so many gaps that are missed throughout the day because he's not a wedding photographer. So, you know, weddings, it's always something that's go pop off. Always something go throw off a schedule. As a wedding photographer, you just got to know how to roll with the punches and still get the shots that you need to get and not depend on somebody else to tell you what to do. You got to be self-sufficient and do it yourself. But since he wasn't inclined to that, he didn't, roll with the punches. Stuff got missed. I have no family photos from my wedding day.
Girl,
I have no really like couple photos of us outside of like during the ceremony, and that's basically it. So we had to do a reshoot. Yeah. So Dom, he had to keep his tux a little bit longer for us to do a reshoot, and those are the photos that you actually see in my house of us. It's like a whole nother day. People are like, oh, those pictures are so cute. I was like, that's not even my wedding day.
Got you.
But
so
that's what it's connected to.
So your system in the classroom and going into your system in business, like again, what was that disconnect?
The disconnect was, I feel like it's probably accountability. Because in the classroom, I have somebody that's like dependent on me to get XYZ done.
Mm-hmm.
Versus me in business, it's
on you.
It's on me.
And so the harmony and the balance was the accountability piece.
It's the accountability piece. And now it actually is still the same because I feel like I work better in community, like in networking. That's what has almost kind of catapulted and I feel like pushed me to do a little bit more. It's just like not doing it alone.
That's dope because most people out here trying to do it by themselves.
We don't need to.
Yeah.
And don't be intimidated by somebody that does the exact same thing as you. Because a lot of my closest friends are brand photographers. We literally going for the same people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're not going for the same people.
Yeah.
So it's it's a difference.
So you do brand photography and wedding photography. How that work? Tell me about that. And we were supposed to be talking about business on this, but now I'm intrigued.
So I do both because how the way I consider it is I document your legacy. Because after COVID, really when the whole George Floyd stuff happened, I was inclined to make sure that what I had, that it was like passed on to my children.
Okay.
Because I don't want somebody else to write my story for me. So that's how the way I go about my photography. With your wedding, when you're like passing that on, you want to make sure that it's seen in a well-rounded way. That when you're looking through a wedding album, and if your parents were like, oh yeah, I could remember this day. When it comes to business, why am I building all this business? Doing all this thing, working way more than you would in a 9-to-5.
Yeah.
For entrepreneurship, and then having nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
Or just, I just don't understand like the logic of doing all the work and then
not documenting
it. Because if you go today, are you gonna have anything that's gonna be like, oh, you were this awesome brand photographer, or oh, you were this awesome social media expert? Like, what do you have to show for it? So that's why, like, I'm actually refreshing my website now, and I'm still trying to play around with the copy, but like the hook is like I'm documenting legacies because I want you to be able to tangibly pass something on to visually tell your story.
I like that.
After the fact.
I like that.
Because even think about like in general, when it comes to like people of color in the news, look at what's going on right now. They are saying a whole different perspective of these people's story.
Yeah.
Like a whole different perspective.
And what's the thing that you're talking about, friend? So for people
about Palestine, Israel.
Okay, yeah, that's what you're talking about. So you watch this,
We can even go deeper. Congo, it's so much. It's so much. But the fact is that the media will spin it for their benefit.
Right.
And it goes the same way for you.
Yeah.
So do I want to tell my story?
Okay.
Or do I want to let somebody else tell it and twist it and mess it up? It's almost like gossip.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me tell my side. So you are on the side of having people document their legacies, whether it's business or personal. And being personal, you can do your wedding photography, engagement, all those things, maternity shoots, things of that nature. But for business, and those business owners may go through those transitions, and they have somebody who understands both sides. And that is not even really separate. It's the same thing. It's a legacy.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yes.
I like that, friend. I like that, friend. Last thing I'm going to ask you for this episode, when we talk about like your transition, how are things going for you now?
Okay.
How are things going for you now? Like outside of the business, we know the business is booming, but as far as you, like taking care of yourself, choosing yourself, and I ain't talking about like self-maintenance.
Right.
I'm talking about like really the decisions you make, finding that, I like to call it harmony with business and life. Like, how's that going for you?
It's actually going really, really well. I feel like in the past, and I've been like talking to my therapist about this, is being like a people pleaser. But then realizing as you're being a people pleaser, trying to help everybody else, you're like completely dismissing yourself. So now, since I've transitioned, because in the classroom, it don't matter. Like, teacher don't matter.
Oh, of course not.
We just focus on the kids. Like, everything. We just focus on the kids. And I put that in parentheses because it's in parentheses.
Yeah.
The kids. And when I transitioned, it kind of helped me, like, switch my mindset of, oh, I don't always have to be on for somebody else.
Oh.
Like, sometimes I just got to be on for myself.
Oh, put yourself on. Sis.
And then, like, I've had a lot of family issues and health crises that were going on with other people in my family. And it got to the point, and I'm the oldest, and it got to the point where it was always just like, well, Jasmine, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And at first, for the longest, I will always be Miss Fix-It. But I have got to the point now where I really don't care who you are.
Sis, listen.
I love you, but I don't care. I have to put me first.
Absolutely.
I cannot take everybody else's issues and harbor them as my own. Because then that ends up interfering with everything else in my life. So when I put me first, like, I'm like putting me first. Yes, I will sit there to be a listening ear to a certain extent, but I will also push you to therapy. I push people to therapy.
You like therapy, huh?
I do.
I love my therapist.
I really do.
I'm gonna see if she'll
because
come
I
on
feel
the
like we
podcast.
really need to break the taboo that we have in the Black community when it comes to therapy. Because so many of us have it, because honestly, and this is the science teacher in me,
Okay, girl. Go ahead, science
I'm
teacher.
going to scientifically tell you why you need therapy.
Go ahead. Tell them, sis.
As Black people, you have to realize there's little organelles in your cells, all of your cells, millions and millions of cells, your mitochondria, right? Now, remember, the Black woman is the only woman who can carry all races, right?
Come on, sis.
All races.
Give them a lesson. Come on.
Then, when I'm thinking about, like, passing on your DNA, because you got to think, your DNA is literally just a cesspool of all the DNA that came before you, right? So if my DNA is a cesspool of everything that came before me, and clearly we know the history that has came before us that was not that long ago, we are holding on to all that trauma. All of it.
Scientifically.
Scientifically and, like, very literally.
Yeah.
Because it's certain things, even from, like, how the way I was raised to how the way I'm raising my own children.
Facts.
It's a big difference. And, like, the older generations, they're just like, oh, you letting them do, like, why you not fussing that? I'm like, because it don't take all that. I don't have to be like, for you to get, you know, the picture. I have sons. You have sons.
Yeah, but one of mine, they take that.
I know, it do take that for some of them, but I haven't got to that point yet with mine.
Okay.
But I know it get there. I know it
How old are
too.
your boys?
4 and 1.
Okay, yeah. 13, 5, and 2.
I said 13, girl.
It's that 13.
It's that 13.
Oh, baby, listen.
Yeah.
In that 7th, 8th grade era. Yeesh.
I know that very well.
Yeah, but keep going, sis. Keep going. So
But
scientifically, we need
Scientifically,
therapy.
we do need it because we're literally harboring all the trauma internally from our previous ancestors. And it comes out in a lot of random ways. And you just never know how the way your trauma will harbor itself in both your personal and your professional life.
Oh, absolutely. So one of the things that I heard from one of my coaches I had that I thought was dope, he said, you could never build a business bigger than you build yourself.
Exactly.
That thing stuck with me so hard, especially with me having a background in health and wellness. And I was like, you know, I'm gonna like one up that. I don't think you could build anything bigger than you build yourself. Not just your business, but anything bigger than you build yourself. That's why therapy has become essential for my life. And movement is essential for my life. And so when you talk about therapy and just why we need it scientifically, it makes a whole lot of sense. Because whether it is what we're holding on to, the trauma that we went through as a people, just even the way that we were raised, and even the way we were raised was based off of
that.
things that we've gone through as a people. So we're going to get into, you know what, you want to do a part 2?
We should.
We should
do
a
part
whole
2. Nother thing.
Yeah, it's a whole nother thing. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to wrap this one up. We're going to come back with a part 2. But before we leave, I was just talking about choosing you, right? So if there was one thing that you would tell the audience out there about, you know, being intentional about putting themselves first, especially my ladies, what would it be?
Set your boundaries and stick to them. And do not be, you know, intimidated or feel any type of way because somebody doesn't respect your boundary. That's not your problem to take. It's just not.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, so we're going to come back for a part 2 because we're going to talk about this whole therapy thing.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about this whole therapy thing. And listen here, I want to say thank you guys for joining in on another episode of the House of Jazz podcast. Now remember, rule number 1, house rule number 1, choose you and watch everything else choose you too. Rule number 2, revert back to rule number 1. If we had a rule number 3, it is not to keep what we say in the House of Jazz in the House of Jazz. It is to share, share, share. I want y'all to comment. I want y'all to like this episode. If you heard anything that resonates to you, any of my educators out there, make sure you drop it in the comments and also hit that little red button so you can join our house party. All right? Other than that, I'll see you later. Peace.